Hey guys, we're live. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and today my guest is the FI Resellers. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, thanks, Jeff. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hey, well, thanks for coming on. I actually had another viewer and subscriber reached out to me, and they were like, "Hey, you got to get these guys the FI Resellers. Do what you got to do. Reach out to them, get them on the show." I said, "Okay, well, I'll message them, see if we can make it happen." So glad to have you guys here on the show today. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so we're Camilla, and then this is Kang, and we are part-time resellers. We sell on Poshmark and eBay, and we've been selling for about a little over a year now. I started selling on Instagram. Still have that Instagram page, and the profits from that go to charity. And then we kind of expanded from there into Poshmark and then into eBay. We just started eBay in August, but it's been going really well so far, and we've grown our business. And we are from Houston, Texas, so that's where we live. That's where we thrift mostly. So it's been just kind of a fun adventure this past year.
Yeah, and
you guys live nearby Flip the World. Have you talked to him? I think he lives in Houston.
yeah, definitely. He is in the Sugarland area, and we're in the Northwest area near Jersey Village. So yeah, we are in contact with him once in a while.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you ever ran into him, because I figured Houston's a big city, so I was just curious.
Not yet.
Yeah, there are a bunch of Houston resellers, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone like. We go to the bins, and we go to there's another local thrift store that we go to often that other resellers are. We always see their hauls from it, and we're like, we never see them. It's like total isolated,
Well, pretty soon, once you guys blow up on YouTube, people are going to start recognizing you. Be like, "Hey, I know you." So that's going to be real fun. You're going to be at a yard sale or estate sale somewhere. People's going to recognize you. So,
well, that's the dream,
Yeah, that would be great, right? So we have Van Jam is here in the chat. So we wanted to say, hey, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us today. If you have questions for our guests, go ahead and drop it in the chat. So I got a bunch of questions for you guys. So you guys, you have regular full-time jobs, and then you kind of do reselling on the side, correct? So do you want to talk, if you don't mind, do you mind telling our audience what you guys do for a living?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I work for a church. I work in adult ministry, and then
I work in human resources. I do a lot of training and development. So that's our primary functions,
Okay, cool. So you guys work your regular, I guess we would call them 9-to-5 jobs, and then you still do reselling on the side. Now, what kind of got you guys into starting reselling? Like, what was it? Were you watching YouTube videos one day? Did you have a friend or family member who was like, hey, look, here's my sales for the past 90 days. You got to jump on that. Like, tell me kind of how the story is, how you guys got started into reselling.
Yeah, so I basically got into it because Camilla got into it, and that's a pretty fascinating story because she kind of talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but really she got me hooked on it.
Yeah, so I got started because I was just looking for kind of a new hobby, something to do beyond my job, and I had been following this Instagram of someone else who had been selling like vintage items on Instagram and had like so much success. And so I was like, well, I could do that. Like I have thrift stores, and I, like to wear vintage clothing. I like to find it. I know, some information about it. And so I started my own page. And then over time, I just kind of thought, I think it would be good if the money from this could go to charity. But my issue is that I didn't sell everything on the Instagram page because I'm not like a social media guru or anything. So it was hard for me to grow my following. And so when you only have, I think I have maybe like 700 followers on the Instagram. So some things don't sell. And so then I was trying to look for other ways, and people were giving me clothes that didn't necessarily fit with what I was trying to sell there. Like I mostly sell vintage and vintage inspired clothes. And so people would give me these clothes and I didn't know what to do with them. And so I opened a Poshmark closet thinking, well, I can sell the clothes there that don't sell on the Instagram page. And then the first sale came through, then the next sale came through, and I was like, oh, well, maybe we could do something with this. And I was, on YouTube looking at, how to sell on Poshmark, how to increase your, how to sell more on Poshmark, that sort of thing. And I fell into, these YouTube pages on Poshmark and on reselling. And then I was like, oh, people are really doing this, And so that is kind of what got us into it. And then once the state kind of lifted some of its restrictions, we went out thrifting again. And it's been kind of addicting ever since. So we've been really just kind of growing from there. And it's just been really fun to, see how it grows.
Yeah. And we started on Poshmark, and then we quickly got into eBay because I've had an eBay account since 2009. And that actually was a great advantage to us because I guess, it really deters a lot of scammers because, they see that this person has been on eBay for a while. Because I hear a lot of horror stories from people who are starting out from eBay that they just get some serious, crazy amount of people trying to scam them. And so, that's basically where we're at now, where we do mainly eBay at this point, even though we started on Poshmark. And we really like the eBay platform because it's got a global shipping program and all these other cool things. So really, really happy to be part of this community. We have consumed a lot of content and we're learning a whole lot. It's kind of weird to think that we're only about a year into this.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So tell me how your experience was with Poshmark, because I tried it out for like a week and I was like, I don't think this is for me. Like, I'm just being honest because I don't sell a lot of like clothing and knickknacks to be in that category. And I just listed like 2 or 3 items. And then it was like, you have to share your closet. And I was just like, so I tried it out. Honestly, I was like, I'm going to try it for a week. And then I was just like, all right, I'm going back to doing this whole eBay thing because there's so many more users on eBay platform. I think it was 187 million people that have bought something on the eBay platform within the past 12 months. So it's kind of like, you're comparing, apples to a whole apple tree. You know what I mean? To me, it's like night and day difference. So talk to me a little bit about what your journey was like on Poshmark in case people are curious.
Yeah. So when I started, our closet was, maybe 10, 20 items. And now we have about 500 items in our Poshmark closet. So for us, we don't manually share our closet anymore. Now we use automation to share it. And it kind of got to the point when we had about 300 listings, I just couldn't share it anymore. Like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't motivate myself to do such a menial task. But they just came out with a new feature where sharing, manually goes a lot faster, which is good. But I think with Poshmark, you kind of really need to understand the platform and you have to kind of understand like the ins and outs of it. So it's a very visual platform. So the way that you take your pictures matters a lot. But the description doesn't matter as much, I think, as like it does on eBay. But what I like about it is that it's very easy to get started on there. The shipping is easy. They kind of take care of returns. So when someone submits a return on Poshmark, Poshmark is the one who approves it or disapproves it. And there's like, you can't return because of fit, all that kind of stuff. And you have to submit photos to be eligible for a return and stuff. So it's kind of nice because then I don't have to broker any of that. And then I don't have to worry about negative feedback or anything like that. But it is really like kind of niche with clothing, shoes, accessories, and especially women's clothing, shoes, and accessories. That's the main people who are on that platform. But with that, women are also often buying for their husbands or buying for their kids. And I also find that people on Poshmark tend to pay. We can charge a little bit more on Poshmark than we do on eBay. For different items. And so that's helpful too. But it's very simple to list on there. The main thing is that sharing, that you have to share your closet. Probably like you want to share your closet 3 times a day.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So depending on how many listings you have, you might want to look into like automating that, which essentially ends up being the same cost as like a subscription on eBay would be.
Right. And the other thing to note is that, Poshmark makes it easy for people to start off. And, when you're doing it as aggressively part-time as we are, or people who are doing it full-time, that's when you have to actually start automating these with bots and stuff. And so there is a point in which, it makes sense to do that if you like the platform enough. And as Camilla mentioned, they make it really easy for returns. So we never have to worry about returns because we're not paying it. It doesn't, get taken out of our margins.
Right.
And so there are some really nice advantages there. It just, you have to pay for it because it's 20% off the sale price. So that's another interesting fact that you have to consider when you're doing Poshmark.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say the same thing about, paying 20% fees. Let me say hello to a few people here in the chat. Secrets of Wanderlust Reselling stop by. Says, hey, everybody. Van Jam says, thank you for the chat. I have to get back to work. High five for all your hard work. He dropped a $1.99 super chat. So thank you. I didn't get a chance to acknowledge it. I didn't want to interrupt our guest. And ask a question. He wants to know, what are your favorite things to resell? So you guys specialize in selling a lot of clothing. What is the area of the things that you guys enjoy reselling the most? Like when you're at a thrift store or yard sale or something like that.
I think for us, our favorite thing is quilts right now because
Really?
we've been selling a lot of vintage quilts recently. We have about 6 going on auction right now. And so it's been fun to, it's kind of a random niche that we've been researching and getting into. And it's just been really fun to see the different, patterns, the different, things that sell well and all of that. So it's been really fun to sell those, and it's kind of exciting to pick them up and then they sell for more than our regular clothes and shoes.
Right. And the part of that is going to just be part of our branding now, because we kind of want to have a niche where people know us for, and we like selling quilts, Afghans, blankets, things like that. And we can be that couple, hey, you can go to Kay and Camilla and learn a little bit about that. And so we have really gotten into that, but we do primarily sell clothing. And the thing about a fun fact about the 6 quilts that are on auction, 4 of them are being bidded on. And, one is at $130 already, and we still got 2 days on it. And so we have a good feeling about some of these because one is at $80, another one is at 60 some odd dollars. And we're just going to let it ride because we know the value of them. And we're doing a lot more research. We're getting a little better at pricing them and understanding what is valuable and things like that. And we hope to, help educate the reseller community because it is a niche. I mean, not a whole lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah. And so how do you guys ship a quilt? Do you just put it in a big flat rate envelope or a big flat rate box? I've never shipped a quilt before, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, they're pretty bulky, and sometimes they can get pretty heavy. So we usually try to do UPS, and we'll just throw it in a box. You don't have to really. Well, you do want to try to protect it as best as you can, especially against water. If you have something that you can fit it in with, at least try to protect it. You can wrap it with cling wrap and do that and package it that way to protect it a little bit. But the easiest way is to just throw it in a box because it's already got its own padding, right? It's a quilt. So you don't need to worry about damaging it too much if you have a sturdy box.
Right. So I watched one of your videos recently, and you guys were talking about how some people have been talking about summer slowdown, but you guys have had record sales lately. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I hear that all the time. It's like, well, it's a summer slowdown. I'm just like, just keep listing, bro. It's not gonna what do you think? It's like if it's raining outside, if I complain that it's raining, is that gonna make the rain go away and the sun gonna come out? What are you gonna do complaining about it? So talk to me a little bit about what your strategy is during the summer slowdown and how you guys have had record sales for you guys. How have you had record sales in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, so part of that was the work that we put in April and May in our store. And when we've been sourcing, we've been really strict about, what kinds of things we're picking up. And we've also been researching to expand our knowledge in different areas. So previously to about, 2021, we had pretty much only been picking up clothes and shoes. And now we're expanding into, hard goods, quilts, appliances, things like that. And so that expansion has helped our sales a lot because those items tend to sell more and quicker than our clothes and shoes. It is harder to store them, so that's why we have a harder time picking them up. But so it's partially that, but then it's also that we are really strict with our consistency. So we list 6 items a day every single day. And that is like a hard and fast rule. Like if for some reason, so Kane does the pictures and the drafts, and then I do the actual like listings. And if for some reason I don't do the listings that day, I have to do 12 the next day. Yeah. Like it's like, that is like our rule. And I think that consistency helps us on both eBay and Poshmark. And we will often run sales. If our sales are slow, we'll do a promotion on eBay. We'll relist things. We use pretty much every strategy in the book that we can to like facilitate sales, essentially.
Yeah, we're very aggressive about sending out offers on eBay as well. So that's a really big thing that we do. A lot of people will let it sit for a bit and then find the right buyer. Well, there is a good buyer if they are watching it. So you might as well try to get them to buy it is kind of our philosophy. And we're very fast about sending out offers because when someone is watching it, they're thinking about it. And when they're thinking about it, they're more likely to buy it, when it's fresh on their minds. So that's kind of the philosophy we take with that. It helps a whole lot because people are often buying based on offers. So we've been pretty happy with our strategy, and we're always learning more. People are always, giving us advice about things, and we do try to focus on having good things, right? Good things that people are willing to buy, and making sure that we're, at the end of the day, sourcing and making good deals.
Yeah. So if you guys listen to what they said they're kind of sourcing outside of their niche. They've been trying to list items consistently. They run sales. They're sending out offers to watchers. All that's good stuff. Matter of fact, I just sent out offers to watchers right before we went live today. So I was just going down the list, just sending out offers to watchers. I usually will do like 10%, something just to kind of get their attention, Yeah. So, hey, we have a question here in the chat. Secrets of Wanderlust says, hey, love your honeymoon series. Who first got into reselling and who pulled the other person in? So we talked about that a little bit earlier. You want to talk a little bit about your honeymoon series that you guys have on your YouTube channel? You guys recently got married, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 months ago we got married, and immediately after we went on a honeymoon and thrifted throughout Texas. That was our honeymoon. Yeah. You can tell you're a reseller,
Okay.
But we Persia, that was only like half the time. The other half of the time we stayed in nice hotels and things like that, and relaxed at the pool. And we thrifted enough to pay for the whole honeymoon, including all the stuff that we picked up. And just maybe 2 weeks ago, we hit the goal of, we paid for all the money we spent on the hotels, the travel, the thrifting, everything. And now we are in the green about $300. So, and we haven't sold, I think we've sold maybe 40% of what we picked up.
Yeah. So we still got a lot. And to answer the other question, we, at first, Camilla started and I wanted to help out. But the other thing that comes to mind with, why we got into reselling and things like that is that, when we decide it's time to go full time, it's a very flexible thing. If we have a family or when we have kids, then we will hopefully have Camilla be a stay-at-home mom. And, there's a lot of inspiration there from Hustle at Home Mom, where she is doing just a lot of great work. And, she's able to stay at home, have a flexible schedule, be with her kids and things like that. So there's a lot of inspiration there.
Okay, cool. I don't know if you guys mind talking about this, but since you recently got married, I'm just curious, where did you guys meet? Did you guys meet at church, or you at a grocery store, the laundromat? How did you guys meet, and how did you guys decide, when the transition, hey, let's just go ahead and get married? We've been together for a while. Tell us a story about how you guys met and how you decided to go ahead and get married, because I'm just curious. Go ahead if you don't mind talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. So story goes is that we met at a church function where we were liaisons for these two organizations, and we were kind of leaders in these organizations, and we were meeting to plan these series of talks. And so we basically kind of danced around that with one another after a few months, and then we started dating. So about 2 years later, we get married. You know, it's just a kind of a thing where you know each other, and then you get this connection, and eventually you just decide that, you know, it's the right time. And apparently during the pandemic, it's the right time to get married, because we got married kind of in the thick of it, or at least, you know, we got engaged. Just a very interesting story. Maybe people will be interested in this, but we were in Norway when I proposed to her, and 2 days or 3 days later, we had to leave Norway because, you know, the US was shutting down. And they said, everyone has to come back to the US or you're going to be locked out. And so that was a lot of fun. We had to panic basically and get back to the US as soon as we could. And, you know, this whole time we were trying to figure out how to get married or whatever. We weren't going to put our lives on hold for this pandemic, but funny enough, we planned it, and, you know, about half of our guests were vaccinated at the time that we got married, so we felt very safe having. It was a pretty small wedding. It was about 50 people at the reception, but at the same time, you know, we had to plan that with the idea that we'd have such a small crowd, and so that was pretty interesting. So hopefully people are interested in that, but yeah, that's basically our story.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you were just like, we don't care if there's a lockdown. We're still going to go and do it anyways. Like, you could have just held off and said, we're going to do it in 6 months from now or a year from now. But you're just like, hey, if somebody shows up, don't show up. We're going to make this thing happen. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We got a few people in the chat I wanted to say hello to. My buddy BK from the Rockies stopped by. He says, drop questions in the chat. We have my buddy, the flipping accountant, is here. Justin is here.
Hey, Justin.
We have Mom's Closet, Texas. Christy says, sorry, I'm late, but I made it. Thanks for stopping by. She says, seriously, the cutest couple. Thanks. We have Secrets of Wanderlust Reselling. Says, what is your niche or platform that you want to expand into but haven't yet? And what is holding you back? You guys only have so many hours in a day. That's the thing, because you guys are busy. They don't understand. When you work a full-time job and you're trying to shoot YouTube videos, plus list items, and plus still try to spend time with your family, there's only so many hours in a day. And if someone's a full-time reseller, they don't have to report and do a job for 8 hours a day. So it's like they have all this extra free time. But when you're working a full-time job, it's kind of a little bit of a balancing act. So do you want to dive into that a little bit? They want to know, what is your niche platform that you want to expand into, and what is holding you back as far as your reselling business goes?
Yeah, huge props to you, by the way, Jeff, because you're at the grind, and we respect a lot of that, because you're interviewing a lot of great guests as well, and we totally see that. But to answer the question, I think that Facebook Marketplace has been really nice lately. We sold 2 Afghans on there because we were very strategically cross-listing, because, you know, there seems to be a bit of an older demographic and a very interesting kind of, maybe even a lot more older feminine, I guess, products that can sell pretty easily from what we've seen. So the Afghans specifically to us, because that's just something that we recently picked up, thought that would sell well, and they sure did, because we sold them for $70 each. And, you know, there's money to be made on Facebook Marketplace is what we've heard, and we have definitely gone and tried it out. We are being very strategic with the items, because, like you said, there are only so many hours in the day, and we're trying to make sure that, you know, if we're going to post it and go through all the trouble with Facebook Marketplace and all the risks, because it's so new, that you know, we do it with the items that we think are going to sell, and sell for a good amount.
Yeah, I got a quick question for you. How do you guys stay motivated? Because for a lot of people, that not you guys in particular, but just a lot of people that I meet, when they get done working their 9-to-5 job, they want to just go home, take a shower, get something to eat, and sit back and watch TV for 4 or 5, 6 hours. Like, what keeps you guys motivated when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you had a bad day, you had a flat tire, and you still got to go home and be like, hey, we still got to get these listings listed. We still got to ship out packages today. Because, I mean, that's a real thing. Like, I got home real late last night. I think it was like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I still got to go pull eBay orders and stuff that sold the night before and get this stuff shipped out. Even though I want to go home and make me a big sandwich and, you know, and take a shower and relax, I'm like, I've got to get all these packages shipped out. So what keeps you guys motivated to keep going when you don't feel like it?
I think, honestly, this is where it's a strength as a couple, to be a couple in reselling, because, you know, like when I don't feel like doing the listings or doing, you know, what I need to do within our business, I think to myself, well, I need to do this so that King can do his part. And I think that King thinks the same of me, that like, it's the fact that we both, you know, want to do what we're kind of assigned. We've kind of made assignments in this, so that the other person can do what they need to do. And looking at it that way, you know, helps us motivate ourselves, because that external motivation that this other person, I mean, it's not like we're going to be like disappointed in each other or anything, but it does hold the other person back from moving forward in their task. That
accountability is a really big piece in any motivation, right? So yeah, that's a really great question. What about you, Jeff? How do you keep yourself motivated? Maybe we can get some inspiration from that.
Well, I'm a really goal-oriented person. So like every year I'll write down and say, hey, these are my 5 goals for this year. And some of the stuff is reselling related. Some of it's not. Like, you know, one of my goals this year was just to hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. And last week I hit 4,000. So I just seeing a little bit of progress, a little bit every week. And I'm a real goal-oriented type of person. I want to be like, okay, I was here 6 months ago. Now I need to be here. So instead of trying to look at the outcome, like, of course, everybody loves making sales on eBay, but it's not like I can't just be like, hey, buy my stuff, you know? So I have to just, you know, I focus on, I feel like on eBay, you can either kind of do, where you're selling higher ticket, higher dollar items. Like you were talking about selling quilts for $100. So you can sell higher ticket items. Like I sold my old cell phone. It was cracked. It was busted up or whatever. And it still sold on eBay the other day for $100. Or what I try to do is I try to sell a lot of lower ticket items that are $10, $15, $20 items that maybe I paid. Like, for example, I sold this DVD for $20. I had 50 cents tied up in the item. So what I try to do is because at the end of the day, those add up. You know, if I sell 5 of those for $20, they'll have what, $2.50 tied up in cost of goods, and it should turn into $100. So what I try to focus more on, instead of the outcome of, hey, I've got this grandiose number of sales, I try to focus on getting the number of listings listed active on the platform. So I just feel like if you're a goal-oriented person and you want to be able to see progress, you don't want to be like, hey, 5 years later, I'm still in the same exact spot I am now. You want to be able to kind of make progress a little bit. Like I said, you may not be able to say, hey, I made $10,000 in sales this month, but you could say, hey, what are things that I can control? Did I ship out on time? Did I send out offers to watchers? Did I get my listings done? You know, did I go out and go sourcing? What are things that you directly can control? You know, and speaking of goals, that's the next question that we have here from my buddy, the Flippin' Accountant. He wants to know, what is your goals for your reselling business, and what is your favorite platform to resell on?
Yeah, so our goal with our reselling business is, well, our first goal is to enable me, at least when we have kids, to stay at home with them. And then our goal after that is that this reselling and, you know, our salary from our jobs will be able to motivate or kind of push us into financial independence, which is essentially where you have enough saved, well, really invested, that you don't have to make money from an employer or anything like that. So
because
that
the interest and the dividends and the payouts from those investments will basically bankroll the expenses that you have. So, you know, you have the income coming in, but also you keep your expenses low and make sure that all of the money coming in from your investments either equal or is, you know, more than your expenses. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it. So that's why we're the financial independence resellers, the FI Resellers.
Yeah. So essentially your money makes more money than you spend. each year, each month, whatever, however you divide it out. And so that's our ultimate goal with this, so that in the future we could just resell, only as much as we want and not have to make a certain amount, each year, each month, whatever, so that we have freedom and flexibility to, do whatever we want, really. So.
Yeah. And I was totally I just kept nodding my head as you were talking about your goals and how you're speaking to your motivation, Jeff, because we have set, a lot of goals for ourselves with YouTube and with, because this is our first year on YouTube, our first 6 months. And, we just want 1,000 subscribers by the end of October. And we set very realistic goals. And I think that's a big part of it. You have your stretch goals, right? And you want to make sure you have a long path to that. The idea is to not just focus on all of these smaller parts, but have a long-term goal. And we are really focused on, YouTube, and we set the goal for $21,000 profit for our reselling. So that's very attainable, and we're even gonna, surpass that this year. So it's very much, setting micro goals also, so that we can look at this big picture and see, hopefully eventually get to, financial independence.
How old are you guys? Because you sound like you're still young to me. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 30 and
I'm 25.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking right around that age range between 20, because I'm 37, and hearing the way you guys talk, I'm like, I know they're younger than me, but I don't know how younger you are. So you guys are still really young, man, and you still have your whole lives ahead of you. So if you work hard and you plan ahead and you set goals, you're going to be there. What they're talking about with the FIRE movement, what people say, instead of working until they're 65 and try to draw Social Security and a pension, there's a lot of people in the community that they want to retire at age 35 and have enough money set back for a rainy day. They have enough passive income coming in to cover their expenses. So if they don't go to work, like if you didn't work for a week, a month, 6 months, or whatever, you would still have enough cash flow coming in to cover your expenses and still have free time to go do what you want to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what got you guys motivated as far as this FIRE movement? Like, was it because you said you guys met at church? Was it similar to what Dave Ramsey talks about, or do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we got started on it basically from my perspective. I got interested in this podcast called Choose FI, and that kind of just started this whole thing, because at the time Camilla and I were dating, and I just started listening to so many of these podcasts, kind of getting into that mindset, because it really is just trying to think about this all the time and trying to plan way far ahead, because we don't know when we're going to retire. We are hoping that we can retire by 50, so we can have the 15 years back from the typical 65, right? And so it would be great if we could retire at 50 or less. But essentially that got me started on this path, just trying to consume a whole lot of knowledge. And at the time, I slowly introduced Camilla into it because she wasn't quite on board. And, when I think about all the concepts that the financial independence community talk about, where we're trying to lower our expenses and trying to make the most out of our time and money, then it just makes sense. And I think that as a side note, I think that the reselling community has a lot of those thoughts and that kind of philosophy as well, because you want to buy low and sell high, right? And so the idea is you lower your expenses and try to make the most money, or make the most out of your money. And so that's kind of where we started, and we casually had conversations, and we talk about this now. We talk about this like every single day as part of who we are in our just being in this relationship, and it's very motivating. And so that kind of started and grew very slowly, and that's kind of part of how we got into this reselling community. But to answer your question about Dave Ramsey, we think of Dave Ramsey as a great starting point, but financial independence community it's almost like So if you think of Dave Ramsey as a university level, graduate degree, then we would think of the financial independence movement as a PhD level thing, because there are so many tax optimization strategies that you can do, and the investments that you can choose to go down certain paths, real estate investments that you can do to, try to really get into the passive income area, things like that, eventually you kind of dive into as you are exploring this financial independence thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the stuff you guys talk about is kind of right up my alley. Almost every month I sit down and look at what expenses I can get rid of, or what we can do to reduce your expenses, and then gradually increase your income and have different streams of income. So if something does happen, if you get laid off or lose your job or downsizing, I was just watching today, and this guy said that if he chose not to get vaccinated, they were going to basically fire him, and they were like, hey, if you don't get this vaccine shot, you no longer have a job here. And he never planned on that. He probably went to college for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to be a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or whatever. And then now it's like, hey, if you don't get this shot, you no longer have a job here. So I don't mean to bore our audience to death. So if you guys want to talk about that, we'll talk about, we'll talk about personal finance another time. I wanted to say hello here to a few people we have in the chat. Ebliss Reseller Solutions is here. They says, hey, Jeff, Camilla, and Kang, inspired to see other reselling couples enjoying their resale business. They says, I know you guys shop at the bins. What is a fun place to source? So what are some of the places that you guys like sourcing for merchandise to resell?
Yeah, so we almost exclusively shop from 3 places, which is the bins. In Houston, we're lucky to have, multiple locations. They are more expensive than some of the other cities that we've been to, but they seem to have good merchandise there. And then another one is a local thrift store called Family Thrift
and
Outlet.
Go to the outlet.
Yeah. So that one is another outlet center, but they have their clothes on racks, not in bins. Well, they have some clothes in bins, so it's kind of confusing. Yeah. It's like they have a section of throwbacks essentially that go into bins, and then garage sales. Mm-hmm. And we almost never go to regular thrift stores. We almost never go to buy, sell, trade stores. We did go to one. We went to a couple on our honeymoon, but didn't have very good luck there. Yeah. I think we just are kind of risk averse in our business.
Yeah, I was going to say that because
at least right now, because we still are new. We're only a year old, so we're not experts at anything, and we want to make sure that we are, at least while we're part-time, keeping our costs so low so that we can have as much cash flow back as possible.
Right. And I was going to mention that the bins and garage sales and all of those smaller dollar investments. So for the bins here in Houston, it's $2.19 a pound. That's actually pretty high compared to all the other ones that we've seen on YouTube where people are talking about it. But once you hit 50 pounds at the bins, it's $1.79. So we usually try to get 50 pounds in one go. And so that's part of our strategy. And the Family Thrift Outlet that Camilla mentioned, they have this system where it starts at $2 per item on a single day. And then it kind of lowers down each day. And so we go there. It's about keeping costs low, almost as though, it's part of what we are because of this whole financial independence movement thing. We try to keep our costs low, and we try to apply that philosophy to our business as well, because that keeps the risk low, because you often find that some items are damaged, you can't sell it. Okay, fine. Well, we'll take a loss on it. But at the same time, there's a lot of potential when you're talking about, selling a $2 item for $20 or $25. Sometimes we sell it for $60. So that's exciting as well. So that's part of it.
Yeah, I bet you guys come across some gems every now and then at the Goodwill bins, especially like if you get a pair of shoes for $2, $3 and you could turn around and sell them for $50, $60 or whatever on eBay. You can find some in there. You just got to put a little bit of elbow grease in there, like cleaning the shoes or, finding items that are valuable, kind of picking through all these bins. So I got a question for you. What percentage of the profit that you make every month you reinvest back in your business? Do you have a certain thing where you're like, I got to reinvest 20%, 50%? or how much of that do you try to reinvest back into your businesses, back into buying more merchandise every month?
Very little.
Yeah, so because we source for so cheaply, all of the sourcing places that we go, everything's so cheap. Basically, what we do is we just spend the amount that when we go there, we, try to get as much as possible in the amount of time that we have. What we're really limited on is time. So last week we finished out, all of the things from our honeymoon. We listed all the things from the garage sales that we've been to recently. And we went back to the bins this past weekend for the first time since we left on our honeymoon. And we picked up 58 items, which basically will last us about a week and a half. And so now we have to go back again this week to pick up more items. And it's limited based on how much time we have in our schedule, which is difficult because we work during the week. And then on the weekends, we're volunteering in places. We have family commitments, all that sort of stuff. And you need kind of a big block of time to, go to the bins. And we live about 20 minutes away from the closest location. So it's kind of difficult for us to go. So that's really the limiting factor that we have. But we don't put a number limit on, how much we're reinvesting back into the business because everything is so cheap. And then, the money that we're making, it's usually we average about 10 times our investment. So it really kind of works out that way. And then we'll take a little bit, however much we had in profit from the past month, we'll take, a little bit less than that. We save some for taxes and things, and we take some of that out and then we invest it. Yeah.
So the bulk of our money actually goes into investments rather than back into the business. Funny enough. Part of what also we are trying to, experiment with is this idea of testing things out and putting it on YouTube so that others can know, as beginners, what we're trying as we're growing our business. So we tried ThreadUp. We do often try to go to regular Goodwills. So because there are a lot of bigger dollar items, a lot of bigger dollar profit potential items as well, because we see all of those Instagram posts where people are going to regular Goodwills and, getting these massive electronics and things like that, we think that we just need to find a place here in Houston and we need to explore that. So, our time is valuable and we're trying to be more conscious of that. So, but we keep going back to the bins because we love it. And so that's part of it, right? So that we should have some fun as part-timers, that, we're not just doing it for the grind. So that's part of the philosophy as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely can relate. Like I said earlier, you only have so many hours in a day. So before we had this lockdown, I would go out sourcing all the time to pawn shops, thrift stores, Goodwills, all these different places. But once they had the lockdown, they only let 5 people in the store at a time. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend a half hour out of my day just waiting in line to go into the store that I may or may not find anything. So I've been doing a lot of bulk purchases and looking online where I can buy, 100, 500, 1,000 items at once, have them shipped to my door, buy wholesale lots, scan them in, and then list them back out on eBay. So, because it saves me a lot of time of having to go sourcing. Because I make, like, for example, I went to a thrift store last week and I think I spent $5 and I got like $70 worth of merchandise. Versus if I could go on eBay and I buy a big wholesale lot, let's say of 1,000 CDs new into shrink wrap for $400, and then turn around and turn my $400 into $10,000. When I'm getting $10,000 worth of merchandise in one day versus coming home with $40, $50, $60, $70. Well, that's just the way I look at it. Let's say hello to a few people here in the chat. Flip the World is here. We were just talking about you. This is your buddy here from Houston is in the house.
Yeah.
Philly Flipper is here. You guys are going to be on with Philly Flipper as well soon, right? Aren't you?
Yeah, on Saturday. That's right.
On Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. He has a question. He wants to know, who is your favorite YouTuber named Paul who lives in Philadelphia and has a warehouse? So this is important. Yeah, you guys actually had a Philly Flipper shirt on the other day. I saw it in your video.
Yeah.
Yep. Repping Philly Flipper.
Yeah, we won it.
Eblis Reseller Solutions says your ThreadUp video last week was great, by the way.
Thanks so much, Dave and Lori.
Yeah, we had a question here from the Flipping Accountant. He says, do you track your net worth? I've been tracking it for years, slowly growing and thinking about making some videos about it, but I'm not sure if people would care. So do you guys track your net worth at all or no?
Yeah, we would care, Justin. We're interested in that stuff. We nerd out on just looking at those numbers. We do track it. I've been tracking my net worth for about a year and a half, and we're in the process of combining all of our investments and things like that. So I'm getting Camilla's numbers into my spreadsheets and slowly, trying to look at that from a financial independence perspective, so that we can see where we're at, where we stand on the movement, and trying to get to our goal. So yeah, we track it very, very regularly, monthly at the very least, but we look at it pretty often.
Okay, cool. Now I have a question. I don't know if you guys had time to think about this, but where do you guys see yourself in the future? Like with your, as I know you're a goal-oriented type of person. So where do you see yourself within the next 3 years to 5 years from now? Are you guys going to settle down and have kids and have a family? Are you going to, what are your thoughts of where you see yourself at, within the next 5 years from now? What are some of the up and coming projects you guys are working on? Do you have anything on the back burner that you would like to talk about? Go ahead and let us know, what your future plans are.
Yeah, so we're hoping in the next 3 to 5 years that we will have a family. It's kind of up to, you can't control that really. You can try as much as you can, but some things are just out of your control. So we're hoping to have a family, and we're hoping that, at that point I would be home doing reselling full time, or really being a mom full time and doing reselling whenever I can. And hopefully, be monetized on YouTube and be continuing making YouTube videos. And then we're hoping at that point to have a little bit in real estate investing. So we're hoping to move from our current house into maybe a duplex, live in one and then rent out the other unit. So, we have a lot of different things that we have, cooked up, but nothing that we have necessarily, decided this is what's going to happen, because it's kind of like we have 10 million options and all 10 million sound really good. So
yeah. So we hope to essentially build an empire.
Yeah.
That's the dream, 3 to 5 years. We hope to have a lot of things in motion at the very least with YouTube and the reselling things. It hopefully will open up a lot of doors and allow a lot of flexibility. That's really what the goal is, the flexibility part.
Yeah, for sure. So we didn't get a chance to talk much about your YouTube channel today. So tell everybody where they can find you at on YouTube and Instagram, and tell me kind of what was the backstory of why you guys decided to start a YouTube channel.
Well, we wanted to give it a try. I guess is really what it is, because we thought that we have, something to offer to the community. And we've been part of the community for quite a while now. Since we started last year, we consumed a lot of YouTube content and just really wanted to be part of the community, not just consuming content, but also creating content. And so the idea is that, we have this shtick, right, that we are pursuing financial independence, and we feel there's probably people out there who are interested in doing something like this, and we want to document our journey, because financial independence is really for everybody. If you have the desire to, and you have at least the mindset, right? It doesn't require, all of the money in the world. It really is about understanding what your expenses are and what you are making, right? So your income. And so if you have those things pat down, you can really have, hopefully, eventually reach financial dependence. And so that's kind of who we are, the FI Resellers, right? The financial independence resellers. We're just pursuing this thing, and we hope to help the community grow in that way too.
Yeah, so we can be found at the FI Resellers on YouTube, on Instagram. I think we have it I think when we originally decided on the name, we went and reserved it everywhere. We made accounts everywhere. So even places that we don't have anything. And technically we have a TikTok. We have 2 TikTok videos, but they're also posted on YouTube. So if you follow us on YouTube, you don't need to follow us on TikTok. So yeah.
Yep. So I have all their links down below. If you guys want to go by and check them out on YouTube and Instagram, all their links are down below. You go by and say hello. You can tell them Jeff sent you, and go by and check them out. So before we let you go, do you guys have any maybe 2 or 3 tips that you could give our audience? Maybe if it has to do with it has to do with reselling, or maybe you have some tips on helping people become more financially independent. What would be maybe 2 or 3 tips off the top of your head that you could come up with that could help our audience?
Mm.
So the first thing that comes to mind is everyone needs to know their numbers, right? Whether you're tracking it on a spreadsheet or you have bought something. We created a free spreadsheet for beginners or even people who have been doing it for a little while. They could get a lot of value out of that. It's in our Instagram, our link tree, where we're just offering it to anybody who wants to use it. It's very basic. It's kind of in beta because it's very manual at this point, but it's a starting place, right? Some people we've heard, just don't track their numbers as well. But it's very important to know your numbers so that you know what's going out, right? What your expenses are, and especially important to know what's coming in and knowing how much you are getting from these platforms after the fees and things and shipping costs and all of that. You need to know all of those numbers, and we're very passionate about that, where we think that people know their numbers, and hopefully we can kind of start a different series of YouTube channel, different series of YouTube videos where we're kind of talking more about financial independence. Right now it's mostly reselling content, but we hope to have a more on-brand spin to our videos where we're challenging the community to start investing and investing in themselves as well. So maybe getting better with their businesses in certain different ways.
Yeah, and then I think with financial independence, if we could just give one tip to people, would be to at least put some money aside to invest, to save for retirement. And one of the easiest ways to start, as long as you aren't making a ton of money, you can start by investing in a Roth IRA. So if you look up Roth IRA, that is a great way to begin investing because it doesn't require your employer to have certain programs or anything like that. And you invest post-tax income. And then when you take it out, when you're retired, you aren't taxed on it. So it's a good way if you think, when you're retired, you might have more money than you have now, or you think that the tax structure might change. It's a good way to invest money and save that way.
Yeah, and there's a reason why it's capped. So the Roth IRA currently is capped at, I believe, $6,000 in 2021. And so there is a reason why it's capped each year. That's one of the, in our opinion, one of the better options. And we are putting a lot of money in the total stock market index. And there's not any particular thing that we recommend, but there are index funds that keep costs low, right? And that's a common theme in our philosophy is you keep costs low and you do what is, I guess, relatively safe. And if you invest in the US total stock market index like we do, that's basically a bet on, is the US going to continue to do well? And you have to have a very long-term goal, because with the total stock market index for us, we look at it, 50 years from now or 60 years when we're old and we still need money for health expenses or whatever. You have to have that type of mindset and long-term goal where, if you can bet that the US is going to do well in the next 50 and 60 years, that's a relatively safe bet, right? Because otherwise, if the stock market is going somewhere, we've got other things to worry about, right? So that's kind of the philosophy behind it.
Yeah. If you guys are resellers and you have no clue what they're talking about, you can just Google it. But to give you guys a quick crash course, what they're saying is they're taking money that they made on their paycheck of after-tax dollars, put it in this vehicle, which is a Roth IRA. And the idea is over a period of time, 20, 30 years, you don't have to pay taxes on the growth that's in that Roth IRA account. So let's say you're 50 years old, you're 65 years old, you want to retire, and all that money that you've gained over the course of 25, 30 years, you don't have to pay capital gains tax on that money because it's in that sheltered vehicle of a Roth IRA. So I know if some of you guys are bored to tears and it's like, it's not like your cup of tea, but you can Google it. I'm not going to make a YouTube video about Roth IRA. If you want to take 5 minutes out of your day and Google it, you can Google it. We have a quick question here from the Flippin' Accountant. He says, how close are you to 1K? How can we help? So how far are you guys away from reaching 1K subscribers on your channel?
We're about 400 some odd, a little. So our sub count is about 580 right now. And, help us out by sharing our content, or even, telling people that we're the quilts couple, right? We love selling quilts, and that's kind of our brand. It's a hashtag that we thought that, people would really like. Hashtag don't sleep on quilts, because it's a pun. Right. It's a pun. It's a play on words. Don't sleep on quilts. Sleep under them. So, you can help us out that way. We really appreciate that. Justin, thanks.
It's just going to be a grind, guys. It's just going to take time, because even once you hit 1,000 subscribers, then you have to worry about getting your 4,000 hours of watch time. But I believe you guys will do it. As long as you stay consistent and you don't give up, that's a big thing. As long as you don't give up and you just stay consistent, you're going to get there eventually. So just keep hustling, man. I appreciate you guys coming on and hanging out with us today. So go ahead and give us your final thoughts, and we'll let you go. We've had you on the show for about an hour or so. Give me your final thoughts, guys.
Well, we just wanted to thank you, Jeff. I think that you have a great interview series. We've watched quite a bit of them. We started following you since Sell Quick, Ship Quick, which is about a month or so ago, and we really enjoy what you do. You do a lot of research on your guests, and you ask a lot of great questions. So we really appreciate you. We really appreciate your community, and we appreciate the people in the chat, because those folks are hilarious. Paul and Justin. And they are such great people. So we thank you so much. There's not a whole lot else we want to say. We really have had a great time on your channel this past hour. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, so I want to give a shout out to the people that are in the chat. We got my buddy Flip the World is here. Paul Philly Flipper is in the chat. The Flippin' Accountant is here hanging out with us today. Let me say hey to Dave and Lori, eBliss Reselling Solutions. My brother is in the chat today, the Bearded Veteran. He tells me I got to get to work listing items. That's one thing that I don't talk a lot about. You guys having like an accountability partner. Even when I'm sleeping, my brother's texting me, hey, how many items did you list today? So having somebody else who's a reseller that you guys speak the same language, that can kind of hold you accountable and hold your feet to the fire, is kind of important. I wanted to say hey to Secrets of Wanderlust Reselling. Mom's Closet Texas was in the chat. And Van Jam was here. He gave us a $1.99 super chat, and BK from the Rockies. So thank everybody in the chat for hanging out with us today. Go by and follow our guests. All our links are down below. You can go follow them on YouTube and Instagram. And I will see you guys in the next one. I have a new guest coming on tomorrow on Friday. His name is Millennial Prophet. He's a young kid, and we're going to learn all about it. He said he made $7,000 in 1 weekend reselling. So you don't want to tune in and check him out and pick his brain. So I'll see you guys in tomorrow at 4 o'clock. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.